Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Hello everybody and welcome into Real to Beer. I am Peeves, this is Michael King, and this is D-Bone. What we're going to be talking about today for Halloween is who are our favorite characters in horror movies and why. And with that, I'm going to start off with Mr. D-Bone and find out who his favorite character is and why.
Well, you know, if you're talking about Mount Rushmore of Halloween killers or you know, scary movie killers, the reason it's called Halloween is Michael Myers. I mean, nice. you say Halloween, everybody goes Michael Myers. I mean, it's not even a contest. It's basically Michael Myers and then whoever's, you know, applying for second place. The dude is the movies are fantastic. The original John Carpenter with.
Who do you think's better though? Do you think John Carpenter done the best, or what with Michael Myers?
Well, believe it or not, I mean the John Carpenter original and stuff with Jamie Lee Curtis it's always the creme de la creme, the top of the cream. You know, it's what everything gets compared to, which is fantastic. I have that movie. I have the 20th anniversary version. I really enjoyed Rob Zombie's first remake of it.
Dude, Rob Zombie to me, he killed.
It had that, you know, that psychological, you know, what he went through as a kid and stuff. That kind of, and you've seen that psychological transformation of him becoming a killer, and you know, the body count in the Michael Myers movies and stuff may not be as, you know, as high as some of the others, but man, the dude is so ruthless. You know, you never, you know, he's unstoppable. I mean, you no matter what you do to him, he's coming back. You know, it don't matter how fast you can run. You can be Usain Bolt. You're still not going to outrun Michael Myers. He's going to get you.
I think he's just so brutal, though. Like to me, though, I like your character, man. That's an awesome pick. Rob Zombie to me done it justice because it was Halloween was so brutal. It was like with Rob Zombie, dude, they was like the guy was just. I know Michael Myers chokes people. He puts them against the wall, slams them around, but he was just brutally slammed around. Like you would think. It was like a true psychopath with
power. When he choked out Danny Trejo and held him underwater and stuff. Yeah, it's like, I'm good to you, Mikey. And Mug's just like, I don't care.
Yeah, dude. And he's like, it was just brutal killing. Like, and you get to see like this rape scene. It was like, there was no holds bar. It was just sick. It was like, it would be like, to me though, a great horror movie is what you would truly see in a real killer. Like, there's like, if you're a real psycho, if you're a real killer, there's no like, oh, well, we don't want to upset anybody like nowadays everyone is. This is like a real killer doesn't care. They're here to kill somebody and they're as sick as they can be. So I think Rob Zombie done a hellacious job. I think every movie does.
I think the original stayed true to that point too, with John Carpenter at the helm and I mean creating the Halloween score. I mean,
well, the originality of the storyline and stuff. It's not some kid that drowned in a lake and then 30 years later he's some unstoppable killer. He's not some killer that haunts you in your dreams. He's not some kind of, you know, magical. It's actually a guy. It could happen. He could be a real person. And a quick story, and I'll try to make this as quick as I can. Another reason that Mike is my favorite. Back when I was a kid in high school, 1998, back when we all had dial-up internet, my brother goes online and buys a original Michael Myers mask. He paid a bunch of money for it. This is back when.
Is that William Shatner?
Yeah, it was back when doing that kind of stuff wasn't just a common thing like you just do tomorrow on your phone. So I worked at Walmart and had to close one night. We lived out in Duck Springs, and I'm talking about out there where when the sun goes down, it's pitch black. There's no street lights. There's no house lights. There's no nothing. And so we lived way out there in the middle of Duck Springs. When my brother goes and hides his truck off in the woods, gets his Michael Myers mask, full jumpsuit, even gets blocks that he makes onto his boots and everything else and stuff, so he's like 7 foot tall. Well, I get home and I get told to go out in the pasture to the barn to feed the horses. So I go out there with my dad's mag light and I go out there to feed the horses, and the barn door creeps open just like a Michael Myers movie. The barn door creeps open and there my brother is standing in that barn out there, you know, at midnight with the Michael Myers mask. Dude, my feet didn't hit the ground for 40 yards. And luckily I had on my brown pants.
Dude, that's hilarious.
So, like I said, Michael Myers, hands down. You guys can race for second place, but it's mine.
That's your guy.
Well, I'm going to break from the norm and not go with a typical killer or anything like that. But my favorite horror movie character is R.J. McCready from The Thing in 1982. Another John Carpenter staple. Probably, in my opinion, the best horror movie that there is.
Nice pick, man. That's definitely going away from most.
But this movie is technically even a remake. But what we're talking about here is a movie that is transformed by John Carpenter, and a character that no matter how crazy the shit gets that's going down, he keeps his cool. I mean, he gets everything from dogs with 6 heads attacking him, and people's stomachs popping open with teeth, and heads walking around on little appendages with eyes. I mean, he has everything crazy happen to him, and he stays calm. But I mean, then again, it's Kurt Russell in his prime, which I don't know if Kurt Russell has ever technically left a prime.
He's still the same demeanor to this day.
But he's so good at the plot and the point, and for them to have taken a cheesy 1950s movie and remade it, John Carpenter was amazing at everything he does. We've talked about Halloween, the scores, his music, everything.
And the budget that he makes movies and produces movies on, and then what those movies are able to make is uncanny.
He like he said, he never had a budget to anything until Halloween kind of broke out for him. But the thing is part of John Carpenter's trilogy of apocalypse movies, if anyone knows about that. What R.J. McCready is in that movie, though, is he's a steadfast. And what I mean by that is he takes a horror movie hero to a new level. And we have Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. We have
the Queen of Scream.
The Queen of Scream. We have other people in horror movies that
she's still doing it, man. Still doing it.
Yeah.
We have other people in horror movies that, they handle the situation, but then they make stupid choices. Throughout this whole movie, he doesn't really make a bad choice that you're like, oh, well, that got the whole party sunk or anything. He continues to innovate. He comes up with the infamous blood test scene where he heats up the piece of wire and rubs it in the blood, and keeps doing that until he finds the infected person and then roasts them with a flamethrower. I mean, that's pretty cool. But he doesn't lose it, and he doesn't cause anyone else to have, that fatal mishap like some of the stupid horror movie mainstays. Like, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but they make a stupid decision and it costs someone else their life. What he does...
Leprechaun movies.
Oh, God.
Nice.
What he does is he stays true to a character that is cold and calculated, and he doesn't make mistakes. Even in the final scenes, we see him in Childs, and at that point in time, you don't know if either one of them is infected, and that's what really leaves a John Carpenter movie and his Apocalypse trilogy to be, kind of decided by the people. Was one of them infected with the thing from outer space, which is actually the title of the original movie. But to my point is, what makes him stand out to me is just his sheer will to push the movie. The movie is driven by practical effects, which I love. I would much rather see practical effects than bad CGI effects. But his performance of staying cool, and to me that would epitomize a true badass in a horror movie. Not everyone's going to make mistakes. And that's why R.J. McCready is my favorite horror movie character.
Nice. My favorite character is going to have to be the one that terrorized me as a child. I had nightmares about this guy, and of course, many people had to. He's on top of my Mount Rushmore. Is Freddy Krueger. I had to. I know that most people go into it, but man, Freddy Krueger terrified me as a child. It was just because he was in your dreams. And a lot of my dreams kind of related to a lot of those things that was in those movies. And I think the thing about Freddy Krueger that scares you the most is he takes on everyone's fears. If you're scared of spiders, he would come after you. If he was scared of drowning, he would come after you. If it was like everything that you were terrified of, it was like anything you was terrified of your dream, he came after you about. And the guy was terrifying looking. Like, to me, you know, Jason was a badass. Michael Myers was a badass. But this guy was like, he was burnt. Like, this guy didn't have to have a mask. He was just terrifying the way he looked. And we'll get into this and maybe in another discussion soon, but to me, the guy, the story of Freddy Krueger, the fact that he is a child abuser, like
Pedophile.
you know, pedophile basically. The thing is, it adds a sense of realism, and the new ones to me add more to that story. It made it more realistic. You can't just go like off, you know. A superhero is a superhero, but you have to have a backstory, and you have to make it somewhat realistic. The way they've made Batman, not just superhero, made the realism to it. Freddy Krueger and the new ones, they made him more realistic. But to me, there was so much to cover. John Carpenter, I mean, obviously we're on this John Carpenter bandwagon. He's at the top of Mount Rushmore right now with us. I just think you got like actors like Johnny Depp come into this, and this is like back before anybody knew who Johnny Depp really was.
His first movie.
Yeah, before you ever knew who he even was.
Now, I will say this, in my opinion, the first couple Nightmare on Elm Streets were pretty scary. They did get to a point where Freddy was almost like too comical. Like to me, like he no longer was scary. It was more funny than it was scary.
That was become B-rate, and that's where I think that as a point it did turn into B-rate.
Yeah, the first few Nightmare on Elm Streets and stuff like that were very.
And let me correct you. It wasn't John Carpenter. It was Craven.
Wes Craven. Yep, Wes Craven. Yep.
The two best ones are the first one and Final Nightmare, the two that he directed.
Good point. Yep.
But no one could play that
Craven,
role like Robert Englund. He deserves all the credit for Freddy Krueger ever being a character.
He has, and he's really set a bar where nobody will accept anybody else.
No,
Right.
That's why I think the remake was a failure, because Robert Englund he set the bar so high. He could make that horror comedy, even in the first couple and a Final Nightmare, where it's more horror based, but he could make the comedy into being horrific at the same time. It was a comedy and a tragedy.
Yes. Well, you know, though, I think that if he would have played in the newest version of Nightmare on Elm Street, I know he's aged, but I think he really could have nailed it again. I think they should have maybe brought him in just because of the fans, and he still could have nailed it. And he could have made it as less comical. All you had to do is just cut back the comic, and he could have really nailed that even more, like made it more of a serious movie. And he could have still nailed it a little bit. He could have had the edge, I think. But going forward, I guess, you know, we got to have a Mount Rushmore. We got to get through it pretty quick. We got to have a fast. So who would you pick as your number two, man?
My number two. I tell you what. Let me ask you this.
We cut through them pretty quick, I guess.
What do you feel like is more iconic? Do you feel like the Halloween theme song, or do you think the Freddy Krueger little girl skipping rope 1 2 Freddy's coming from you?
34, but I like you were going.
To me, they all have their place.
I think to me the Halloween theme song is a little bit more recognizable on a general scale.
I'd agree with that.
Yep. So who you think? Who you think your two? We'll get through them real quick. Who you think is your number two, man?
There you go.
Yep.
I can actually play that on piano.
As number two. Number two is probably, in my opinion, is going to be Jason.
Jason, dude, you got two heavy hitters on that one. Nice, man. Why Jason? Just because of obvious certain reasons.
You know, one thing too is like, you know, with the Michael Myers movies and stuff, what it played on back in those days. You know, it made you it was, you know, killing babysitters and all that kind of stuff and everything. So it made it very relatable. You know, it was, you know, known as the babysitters and around Halloween and all that kind of stuff. So it made you scared, you know, like the part in Me where after they think he's dead and the little boy asked Jamie Lee Curtis, he's like, you know, was that the boogeyman? To me, anytime you said the boogeyman, that was Michael Myers. You know, anytime around that time and stuff, anything, you know, going out alone, you know, babysitting kids and stuff, it put that movie put that fear of, for every babysitter, you know, after watching that movie and stuff, it made them scared. For me and stuff, it was kind of the same way with Jason Voorhees and stuff and everything else. You know, you think about the kids that were the camp kids that were supposed to be watching them and all that kind of stuff, and the lake and everything else. So you can't tell me anytime you've ever been to the lake and stuff, you ain't never thought,
at night, Jason's
you know,
coming out of the lake.
Jason's coming out the lake, bro. Like, get out the lake. You know, I just think with the relentless the slasher movies, to me, I think those guys, in my opinion, tend to rank a little higher than some of the others and stuff. So that's why I would say Jason, because the dude just, you know, he's like Michael in the sense you can't outrun him, you can't get away from him, and he's going to chop you with a hatchet.
He's just brute power. So what do you got, Pease, man? What do you think on the second one?
I would go with It from It That Follows, not from the movie It, but the creature from It That Follows. I mean, as I watched that movie, I think I was in my early 20s, but as a, you know, blooming teenager who did not, you know, participate in, you know, sexual acts, and this was basically an STD that followed you and killed you as a haunting creature. But I mean,
I think it's called AIDS now, right?
well, no, I mean, this thing would kill you brutally.
That was misspelled.
Unless you're Magic Johnson.
But no, this was an actual creature, like demon thing that stalked you and killed you, and to pass it on to the next person, you've had to have, you know, sex with them. And what makes this movie stand out is, one, it's an original idea. Who the hell thinks of a, you know, demon being passed on through, you know, sexual relations? And
So the like species.
well, those are good movies too. Those are pretty funny. But and two, to go back and watch it after watching a bunch of informative videos or documentaries or even commentary about it, just to see every scene, you see the creature in the scene and you don't even realize that it's there. It's just in plain sight and you don't realize it's there. But it's always stalking the main character. In the end, I mean, they kind of come up with a crazy way to deal with it, but I mean, what related to me with that movie is, you know, early 20s, just got out of my teens, is, you know, like, who doesn't like to fool around? I mean, come on. I mean, but what if it led to getting cursed by a fucking demon? I mean, that would be, that would definitely be right there along with,
That's the ultimate mess up.
I mean, that would be right there along with what needs to scare you straight of not having premarital sex. But with that, King?
Dude, for me, I got to go with my second favorite has got to be Jigsaw. I'm a big Saw fan. I like the being brutal. I like the fact that like, we started getting really bored of horror movies, and it got to a point where it was just like redundant. It was the same. You come up with a really badass villain, and he was like the boogeyman. And with the Saw movies, it kind of brought it back to somebody that was just a killer for a reason. And you know, I like that. I like the whole Saw movies. And the first one, no one ever said it coming. It was almost kind of like how Seven kind of catches you. Yeah. You didn't realize how the ending was going to happen. You had no idea who the real killer was going to be. And he stood up in the last scene. You're like, who the hell would have thought it had been that guy?
Yeah.
You know?
He was laid on the bathroom floor this entire movie.
And so I like that. I like the grittiness of it. I like the way he killed. Like, Jigsaw kills with my only bag on the whole thing. And it is my favorite, actually probably my favorite horror movies as a whole. Because I like the torture scenes. I like that throughout history there's a lot of torment and tortures and things like that. And that's some of the most gruesome ways to kill someone. But I didn't like how Jigsaw had to go down in movie 3. I didn't like how the third movie, he technically goes down, but everything's like basically a memory of what he'd done for like 8 movies or whatever. Like, it's not.
They started adding too many accomplices and copycats.
The copycats. That's all one thing, but he should have been more of a staple, kind of like how the other horror movie icons should be. That's the only bag on it, but to me, he is the second guy in my Mount Rushmore because it's unique. It set a standard. It changed the game of what we thought horror movie was supposed to be.
It started the kind of torture horror for the U.S.
Kind of like Hostel and things like that. Yep.
It had been a thing overseas before, but with Saw, it became a thing for the U.S. and then we had Hostel and other movies to follow. But Saw kind of led the way and led to that, just the cringe aspect. And one of my cringiest scenes of any movie that makes me cringe the most is in Saw 2 when the chick is thrown into the pit of needles and just to watch her pull those things out. And I've watched all the movies that are on like the top 100 disturbing movies, and that scene still gets me no matter what else I watch. Just watching her pull those needles out of her skin, which is really well
how
done.
bad that had to sting a little bit, you know. It's like how far are you willing to go to get yourself out? How far are you willing to go to live? And
well, that's the thing is most of the people that he chose, there was a reason that he chose, and he wanted them. He didn't necessarily want to kill them, but he wanted to put them in a position for them to make a choice that they realized that there was something wrong that they needed to change.
He wanted them to know the value of life.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and then, you know, if you didn't, you know, there was a price to pay, which was being in one of his traps. And either you could survive, you were still going to pay for it, even if you survived, you were going to pay your dues.
Yeah.
But, you know, it like you said, it literally turned down to, you know, every man for himself and how much do you value life and what you're willing to do.
And you know, you can't really like, for me though, it makes it unique because I like that kind of villain. But on the other end, you got, we can all agree there's people like there's Leatherface. You know, Ed Gein set the standard for these guys. You know, he set the stage for Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Which, you know what I'm saying, Leatherface is, you know, one of those characters. We've also got Chucky, we've got, you know, Pinhead. There's so many great characters we can get into, and with that being said, we really can't get into all these characters. We really want you guys to throw in your comments.
Do you want to throw in number 3 and 4 just really quickly without explanations?
Sure, no explanations. What do you got?
You got to have Leatherface up there, and probably if you're talking about top 4, like I said, Mike, Jason, Freddy, Leatherface.
I would go with the Firefly family from House of 1,000 Corpses and Devil's Rejects and Three from Hell.
Damn you. Damn you.
And then I think I would go with the only one that would probably be a popular pick among all the ones I've gone with would be Leatherface. Just iconic, like very inspired by Ed Gein, very inspired heavily by Ed Gein. A movie that we're talking about that's done on a budget of, I want to say like $2,500 by Tobe Hooper. So a movie that should have never been as popular as it was, but
also based on true story as well. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yep.
But we have a movie that's done on nothing like what you can make in, you know, no time working, and it blew up into a cult phenomenon. And with that,
dude, to me, I'm going with it, man. Leatherface to me, Ed Gein. When you set the bar for two characters to be made, that's huge. You know,
and Hannibal Lecter.
I know, right? It is a lot to what that man meant to horror movies in general. You know, my third, I do have to go with Pinhead because it you know, to me, it's very disturbing. It's basically what hell, nightmares, everything's about. I love that character. I love the darkness. I love the evil that brings. It's inspiring to be such a nightmarish thing. That's just something I love because nightmares, what we're all basically terrified of, you can be scared of. But the thing is, though, we got, like I said, you got people like Jaws that set a certain standard. You got Exorcist There's a lot of great movies, but characters. This is what we're basing this on. I'm gonna go with my four. You know, Freddy, Jigsaw, Leatherface, and we're gonna go with Pinhead for me, just because it sets that standard for nightmares and things like that. So
And the Cinebots were always cool designs too.
yeah, they were. Every one of them was just crazy, and it just tripped you out. Like you really felt like you were in a nightmare. But guys, I mean, you got anything else to add with our Mount Rushmore of horror villains?
I think that pretty much wraps it up for me.
All right, Pete, it's you, brother.
With that, everyone, remember to hit the subscription button, hit the bell to get the notifications when we put up new content. And with that, we're out. This has been A Reel and a Beer. Thank you for watching.